Disclaimer time. This is where I tell everyone to lighten up. It's just a podcast. Trading is like that roller coaster at the amusement park. Thrilling, unpredictable, and potentially stomach-churning. What works for one person might leave another clutching their hat in the wind. Our hosts and guests, they're awesome, knowledgeable, full of insights, but we're not financial advisors. So don't rush to make any investment decisions based solely on our banter. Always consult with a professional or do your own research. Plus, let's face it, we like to have fun, laugh, enjoy the trading ride together. It's all in the name of good podcasting fun. So remember, take it easy, don't bet the farm, and keep your seatbelts on at all times. Thank you for listening. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the China Shop, home of the Band of Traders, and also known as the Up and to the Right show. I'm your host and aspiring trader, Kyle, and joining me tonight, we've got Baba Yaga and Mr. Banks, founders of Vanta Trading and China Shop favorite, Perdue. On tonight's show, we'll be discussing how our experienced traders handle contract rollover weeks, followed by a conversation about incorporating new ideas into your process. After that, we'll look at our past week in the good, bad, and ugly segments before wrapping up with some new bold predictions. Some show updates for the next week. Coming out on Thursday, we've got a fantastic conversation with Tony Saliba. He's the only options trader to be featured in the Market Wizards interviews. And the story about how that came to be was fascinating. I also want to remind everyone that the options series with Eric Smolinski will be streamed live on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central on his channel. Find links for all that stuff in the episode description. So before we check in with last week's predictions, let's see what you guys got going on. Baba, you want to tell us how the town hall went?
I think the town hall went well to quite well. You were there.
Yeah, I'd say you smashed it, dude.
It was a good time, man. We actually stayed on topic, kept the time frame appropriate. So we shot for an hour, landed an hour. That was good. And had probably 45 minutes of discussion afterwards. I think there was a lot of interest in kind of how we pulled together all these ideas from various places and made them our own and created somewhat of a system and sharing how we go about that. It was a good time.
I thought you did a fantastic job with that, man. And some of the ideas and thoughts that were stemming out of it, like we're starting to see some of that in the strategy development. So I'm really looking forward to the next event we got scheduled on Monday where we can share some of those things that we've been working on in the background.
Yeah, for sure.
Banks, what do you guys got going on as far as like continuations with that, or any other plans for the next couple weeks?
Yeah, so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to try to put out probably like a 5 to 10 part series just about what we talked about last night, kind of more of a breakdown segment by segment on how we use it. Well, I guess we'd start off with the more general information and then almost use it as like a course or like a stepping stone to eventually how we use it in the actual market.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
And when's the timeline for that, or what are you guys shooting for?
Yeah, so I mean, we're shooting for, before the end of the year, obviously, to be putting stuff out. And I don't know if we're going to do it like one at a time or if we're just going to, dump it all at the same time. But that's something that we're working on right now to kind of, finalize.
That's tough too, because you want it to be complete. So you have the full picture, but then you also have a bunch of people chomping at the bits to get their hands on it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, nice balancing act there. What about you, Perdue? You got anything new going on?
Nothing special besides continually promoting my wife's book that she's working on the sequel to, Nothing Left But Ashes by Lauren Perdue. Yeah, that's really it. Just continuing to grind on every day.
Nice. And I hope we get some updates for the fast that you went through too when we get towards the end of the show.
Oh, yeah. That's the ugly part.
Well, we'll make sure to have links in the show notes for all this stuff. Please check them out. Show our panelists some support. But now it's time to recap our bold predictions. So Perdue and I, we're still waiting for 4,700 on ES for Perdue's prediction and all-time highs on NQ for mine by the end of the year. Banks, you had a pretty bold prediction, if I recall correctly. You want to tell us about how that worked out?
Yeah, I was wrong. Baba was right. I'll just throw that out there.
It wouldn't be bold if you went with what everybody else thought.
I was surprised, to say the least, that they left out a 13-0 team. But if you're looking at the 4 best teams, I think they probably got it right.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
I just hate that Baba is right.
Well, I wasn't right much today, so.
And also, you did say that they wouldn't be able to put Texas over Alabama, and that did say true.
Yes. So,
dude, a Power 5 team undefeated, not getting in though. That's like
right.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, there's
We're in uncharted waters.
Yeah,
a
so
lot of angry people in Florida.
yeah, so my hope is that they actually go into the game and just smash Georgia, and then it comes back to look like an absolute backfire by the committee.
You're assuming that those guys even care about playing that game.
Well, I'm hoping that Georgia doesn't and Florida State does.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Baba? Everyone's dying to know if your wife saw a bear.
All right, so here's the deal. We had to leave. We had to come home early from vacation, right?
Yeah.
So, was unfortunate. We had some sick kiddos. Couldn't leave them with the sitter with the situation. So, our best chance to see a bear would have been on the day that we left, because we were going to drive through this like wildlife, like this big loop, where there's a really good shot if of seeing one, much better than seeing one in the inside of the store or the mini stores that we went in, which is pretty much all we did. So no live bear was seen. We did see some geese, some turkeys, a miniature cow, some goats,
A miniature cow.
a sheep. Yeah,
What is
yeah.
a
I've
miniature
never heard of a
cow
miniature
look
cow.
No.
Dude, they're kind of funny looking, man. They look. I don't think I can say that. So they look.
You want me to bleep
I'll
it?
type it in chat. They look interesting.
My mom raised miniature horses. I've never heard of a miniature cow.
Dude, so you know how you see a miniature cow and you're like, a miniature horse, and you're like, oh, good try.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, oh, that's like the cow. Same, like you look at it the same way. You're just like, good try.
But secret time here. It was only a few years ago that I learned a pony is a breed and not a baby horse.
That's pretty funny.
Right? I thought for sure you were going to try to pass off one of those photos of the trinkets you guys saw in the shops as a black bear, because you didn't specify live.
I didn't specify live, but we all know it was live. So,
all right. Well, we'll be making some new predictions for next week, so stick around to the end. Make sure you hear those. But I think for now it's time to move on to our first topic. So this one came up, I think, after we all realized that next week is rollover week. And I know that the first time I ever experienced that, I had no idea how to handle it. So I'd like to hear from you guys, kind of your thoughts on how you approach those rollovers. How do you adjust for the gaps? And do you trade differently leading into or out of the rollovers?
Man, I don't know a trader that likes rollover. I don't know one. I'm sure someone has some kind of arbitrage statistical advantage trading rollover, I'm sure. For me, rollover, it creates a lot of people are doing business when they have to, not necessarily on the premise of that they have a desire to. Like there's a necessity to transact for some larger players, which kind of throws like delta and even large volume trades kind of out the window for contract roll week. So just a note of caution to anybody that's listening to this going into roll week. If you're a heavy order flow trader, you need to be really mindful of the fact that like you'll see some very odd delta situations that don't really seem to create the kind of responses you would expect. And you'll also probably see significant sized orders coming across the books in places that would normally catch your attention and possibly create maybe a certain scenario you would anticipate, and that will not happen either most of the time.
And that's the trick right there, is remembering that it's rollover week.
What do you mean by that?
We were talking about in chat that I all week was like, what is with the order flow today? Like we keep going through these walls. Like these walls of bidders, like what is going on here? And it wasn't until the last day of the week that I realized, oh crap, it's rollover week. Of course.
Yep. This week and next week.
Like it's literally my hand smacking my head. not the emoji. It's like
I think a few of us had that reaction today.
Yeah, and dude, I mean, I think with NFP week and rollover looming over us, I think that did create, I mean, it wasn't impossible trading, but it did create some of those scenarios where you're like, why are we not going here? Or like if we feel so stalled, or even the activity yesterday morning and this morning rather lethargic. Maybe not so much this morning, at least trying to get going. And you see, like I actually was reviewing the recording from today, going back through the trades and kind of what we set up and to happen and what unfolded, and just seeing some of the stuff for a second time. Like I was like, wow, I'm actually surprised I didn't, try to short that or try to long this, because of both things, NFP and we're heading into rollover. There was just a lot of stuff firing off. I think it just creates for like stuttery trading. I mean, the NQ felt a little bit like ES at times this week, towards the end of the week, especially. I mean, think about Wednesday, how long we spent down there just bouncing around that, like, I don't remember the level. It's like, it was the lower, it was like the low-ish area of, the 50s, and we finally broke down. You think of all that transacted activity down there. Normally, NQs wouldn't play those games quite as much, but we've seen 3 days of that type of thing in various spots, and that's I would say I haven't done the best job of really being super mindful of it. I mean, I dodged some bullets there, but like more sitting here thinking like, oh, come on, let's get going, not really giving deference to the situation we're actually in with, like I said, with NFP and then with rollover looming. So
I think you made an excellent point there, where anytime people are forced to conduct business and don't get the chance to choose when and where they get to deploy their capital, you're gonna have a hard time relying on technical analysis for that.
Yeah, for sure. And think of what's the gap right now? 200 points.
Well,
ridiculous.
That's what I was about to talk about. Like, here we are on recording, and it's December 8th, and the market right now on the current contract, which is the Z contract, is actually much lower than every single 2024 contract is. So that's like
Really?
the idea of that the future contracts that everyone is getting forced to get into now is a much higher price point.
Interesting.
And there's usually always some amount of a gap, but
Yeah.
it seems a little bit much right now.
It is.
So I'm interested to see how that how
they
we
bridge
navigate
that
roll into. Yeah, what do we do? I mean, you think of it like, okay, well, yeah, we don't need to play scenarios, right? None of us are holding 500 contracts in Z that we need to get over, but there's people, yeah, maybe banks, but there's people that are.
So when do you guys roll your charts over?
I'm gonna do it this weekend.
Yep.
I'm gonna probably roll midweek. I'll watch the volume on the contracts and then roll in accordance with when the forward contract trades, probably like closes a day with equal volume, then I'll roll.
Mm-hmm.
That's the proper response, and it's such a laborious task, and it's the most tedious quarterly thing. I cannot stand. I will spend all weekend going through all my charts and doing the rollover. And I'll be rolled over on Monday, and I'll just be trading probably very light, like quarter size.
Is that adjustments for the lower liquidity, or is that just to give yourself time to let some of those areas start to reestablish?
It's the readjustment of the levels. It's, even though the charts are back adjusted and everything, it's the familiarity of getting confidence in where those levels are. That's really.
Yeah, because you called out a couple things today or early the last half of the week that I was around for. You were harping on a couple of key spots multiple times, and now that number's going to be different. Like when that stuff gets ingrained in your head, like
22.
It's like 76 is one that I was interested to see coming through the end of this week and next week. It's a daily balance area or value area above us that we got into from a TPO standpoint. Well, now that level, once we roll, that 76 won't be something like I'll have to forget that number and think of a new one,
Right.
like see where we are. I hate rolling charts, dude. It sucks a lot.
What about you, Beggs? Do you get any joy in that process?
Since I've simpled it down, I really don't care, to be completely honest with you. Because I'm actually on TradingView, so I can actually chart up the continuous and the current contract, and it would stay on the chart. So to me, it's not going to be that big of a deal. when you look at price currently, I mean, like what Baba said, I mean, we're trading 200 points higher on NQ. We're trading 60 points higher on ES currently. And, I mean, we're damn near all time high. I mean, if you think about it, with one fell swoop, we go above some of these key spots that we've been watching for, the past couple months. And that's just with one contract roll. So this first couple of weeks is going to be interesting how price action is going to go. I think it'll be an interesting, point because there's not a lot of stuff between what I had today and near the highs because the way we came down originally was pretty sharp.
Mm-hmm. What about your trading though? Do you alter your trading during the time periods leading into and out of?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think with what I'm looking at now, I would say in the past that I probably did more than I do now currently.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably roll most of my stuff this weekend, at least to the continuous contract, just to have it updated. And then I'll probably keep trading Z like what Baba said until the volume's pretty close to similar.
So will you be watching the future contract for levels of interaction, but trading them on the?
Yeah. So like I'll start charting up the H contract and trading the Z.
How long have you been doing that?
Probably the past couple of quarter rolls.
Yeah, good results. You like that process?
Well, I mean, I think it just gives you some, like what Baba was talking about. Like, I'm not going to be watching H all day, but at the same time, when we're trading, like during the week, I mean, I'm gonna go back through the days and chart up H as I would have, going into that day. So like in prep, I'll chart up H, chart up Z, and then basically once we have that final roll, I think it's just like that familiarity, like like what you're talking about, like that 78 number, 22 number, or whatever. You can start to pick up on that before you just drop into it on Wednesday or whatever it is.
That's a good point. Kind of sucks because you double your workload, but it sounds like it might be worth the little bit of extra effort to be ready.
Yeah, I mean the work now for what I'm looking at is not very tough. I mean a lot of it's automated. So for that standpoint, it's just a matter of going back and kind of looking at some key spots on the 5 minute, 15. I mean it's not tough with what I'm looking at now currently. So
because he's off Sierra charts.
Yeah, and
I think everyone just got really jealous.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, he switched from Sierra charts to TradingView and has been living the easy life.
Right. What about you, Mike? You got anything? Any other thoughts on this? I think we kind of heard bits and pieces of your process as Baba and you were interacting.
The problem that I have with the rollover week is, it is that flip. I was just going to interject that a market maker, which is like a market maker tutor that I had or mentor that I had, would always bring up that his firm and everyone in his firm, they would get in trouble if they were not rolled over the week prior. So basically, like the whole idea, that's kind of my mindset why on Monday I will be on the H contract, is because just that mentorship of that when coming into the rollover week, if your job is now to roll over because it's rollover week, like the last 5 days to do it, you're already too late. And he actually was talking about, I remember when I was talking about it, was that they would actually take several weeks prior and would be rolling over during it's the whole entire, they basically look at the quarter into segments, and the quarter is basically broken down into 3 different segments. And so they have the initiation, the development, and then the exit. Just like we have our AMD or, market distribution type of cycles, they have the same type of thing where they're on the same idea where they would be exiting out of their positions as the rollover is getting started.
That's kind of interesting
Very
idea.
interesting.
Have you looked back at to see if the volume kind of confirms that thesis or that idea?
No, I have not.
Do you see a sudden increase in volume maybe like the week before?
That's something probably I should do.
Might be worth digging into.
Yeah, another interesting thing with that, if you think about it on the monthly, there's a couple of days in the month. I was trying to pull this up real quick historically that seem to have the largest range. And I wonder if that's tied to that same method or concept, but intra month for either options dealers or whatever. It seems like the third week of the month is it the third? Hold on, let me make sure I'm not looking at this wrong.
Well, I know he was definitely humongous into options.
Yeah. So the day of the month with the highest average daily range over the last 10 years is the 13th day.
Does
of
that
the month.
typically line up with the OPEX?
It would be like roughly a little over halfway through. Yeah, a week before. So if you were,
Interesting.
And then the day with the lowest average range is basically the 17th historically.
17th.
So like a few days after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then if you look at the average daily ranges of a month over the last 10 years on a chart, like on a bar chart, it's kind of like there's a slope up into the fourth day of the month, then a sharp decline to the 9th, then a roll up to the 13th, then a sharp decline to the 27th. The 17th, then a sharp incline up to like the 20s, and then a slow tapering to a high around the 25th, and then a taper off as far as volatility. Expand. So we go expand, contract, expand, contract, expand, contract on the ranges 1, 2, 3 distinct times during the month.
I'm going to need to see that chart because I have some ideas to look at.
Let me
try to exploit some of that if that's a repeatable pattern.
Well, it's looking at the last 5 years, and you can ask your code
That's what I was just thinking.
to spit it out as a picture. And it's not the difference between them is I'll screenshot this and I'll send it to y'all. But
I'll put it in the episode description so people can see it.
Yeah, the fluctuation is probably almost 100 points roughly. 90 point, 80 points, 70 to 100 between the low points and the high points of the average daily ranges. It's interesting. Something I was working on in tandem with some of the other work, and it's funny that we got off a little bit on a tangent of that idea.
Well, I'm gonna have to dig into that a little more.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. We have any more thoughts on contract rollovers then before we move on to our next topic?
Has anybody had any like especially awesome like trading, or that's the question. I like any awesome, like, oh man, during contract roll, this is the thing I always look for. Like I'd love to think I had some kind of advantage or edge that was more pronounced that I could lean on during that time. I don't really have any magic.
I have one piece of advice. During contract rollover is the perfect time to make sure that every single one of your underlines is in a micro if you're trading micros. Because every single time that I have traded the wrong asset class at aka trading a mini when you're trading a micro, has been during contract rollover. Every single time has been during contract rollover, and I missed somehow through Sierra. The underline is still on the mini and not the micro.
Yeah, that's a real. That can either be a happy surprise or a really sad surprise.
It's never been the happy surprise.
I've not been lucky enough to get one of those.
Neither have I. Like I always see these guys like, I thought I made $170 and I made $1,007. Like it's like, why can't I be that guy? Like
Joel got that once.
Yeah, I remember Joel posting that. Yeah.
Lucky ass. All right, let's move on to the next one here then. All right, we mentioned the town hall a few different times here, and there's been some amazing information that was dropped on us in that last Thursday's recording, which I know that Baba did record that, so if people missed it, they'll be able to go back and check it out.
I watched back through it and am getting ready to chop a couple things up and tidy it up and get it put out this week. So,
right. I think this is actually a great time then to talk about how you guys incorporate new ideas into your processes. Larry kind of explained a little bit of his approach after the town hall about how he has playtime on Saturdays for new ideas to explore them and see if there's something there and then develop them further. I'm curious to how you guys, like, what do you guys do when you're exploring new ideas to protect your process? Because that's kind of the biggest worry when you start trying to introduce new ideas, is that it comes in and it contaminates the work that you've already done and then just leaves you feeling like you don't know what you're doing again.
That's the flurry phrase right there. You just said it though.
What's that?
Protect your process.
Protect your process. Yeah. So how do you guys protect your process? What does your process look like when you have a new idea you want to add or explore or test?
That's the thing though. Protecting my process for me is it has to go through backtesting.
Mm-hmm.
Backtesting for me, it's 100 trades. Backtesting for me is also forward testing, which is also forward testing at least a month or two.
But when you're looking at a new idea like that, is that something that you're looking to improve a current process, or is it something that you look at as like a standalone idea and then see if there's merit to it first?
That comes out in the backtesting.
Okay.
So the backtesting is the whole thought process of the idea. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, one that I pitched to Robert, who is our designated Vanta Traders code
Coding expert?
aficionado, back-to-back
Nice
M
work.
period champion. Like when I was pitching to him was just simple 1 hour initial balance on futures. Take the first fair value gap once a 5-minute candle breaks outside of that initial balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's one I've been playing with a lot lately. And then I've been looking at that in also different scenarios to where if it pulls back, say 50% back into initial balance and working on those type of stats. But those are like the back testing to me is where the hashing out of the idea becomes a reality. Like that's where you
Mm-hmm.
play and toy because there's so many nuances. It's like I know a lot of people talk crap about manually backtesting, but
I
you
love it.
learn so many nuances and so many fractal little things, and you go, wow, if I did this, that would probably work really good. But let me just continue on, and you write it down, but you just continue on your backtest. Those are really that exact scenario. I found that one accidentally. Like that's why I actually some people hate backtesting. I actually like it because it's kind of one of those what is it, flow states for me because I will just put
When
music
you get in the
on
groove.
and I will do it when normally when my kids are sleeping and just crank through like 2-3 hours of it and I actually enjoy it.
There's another thing that you had mentioned in the Rich Friesen roundtable that we did, where once you do have an idea kind of fleshed out and you want to test it, I like how you also like you'll get a prop account just for that strategy and then keep it cordoned off so that way it's completely separate from all your other
Yep.
processes. It's another thing that I haven't heard many other people talk about, and I really like that idea.
Like the AKA gym account. The gym account
Yeah,
was
yeah.
created. The whole purpose of the gym account, and truthfully, I actually almost blew it up because I didn't know the position was open. So I'm
Oh,
working on
yeah.
I'm fixing it. But yeah, the gym account is basically based on the compression of the Asian and London range, and then looking for the expansion from the London range to then take a position. Because normally when I'm in the gym, it's 4 o'clock. Yep.
Yep.
Which is comical. This is accidental, guys. You gotta understand. Like Baba was talking this on the mic, and I'm like, you realize that's the whole gym account. Like Baba was spelling it out on the mic, and I'm like, thanks, Baba. But yeah, that's the idea of it is just the expansion of the London range, and the parameters of it, frankly, is when I have compression of the Asia range over RTH, and then the London range closes on a 5-minute candle outside of the Asia range. I then look for the fair value gap in the correct direction of the breakout, and then go with that. That's the whole entire strategy right there.
I've noticed that one. A similar type of
And
setup
how
too.
many times I've been in the gym right here with all these monitors and everything going and going, God, I could have taken that. And that's the whole reason why I started the gym account was because I've been just paying attention to the monitors and just watching, not really caring, but it's just as you go through your workout, which for me is like an hour and a half, is God, I could have taken that.
I'm just picturing Perdue with the Peloton. It's got the little screen on there, and instead of like the workout motivation, he's just got a chart going.
Yeah, I do have that going. I have that stupid Peloton
Nice.
too. That Peloton's over there. I hate that thing.
What about you, Baba? What are your thoughts on this? How do you protect your process?
Well, I think I go through these like seasons, I guess, of being extremely blinded off to anything new, and then seasons of very much exploring something. So for me, I don't like think. Maybe sometimes I think like I'd like to improve this thing, or I'd like to sharpen this part of what I'm doing. Let me put the nose to the grindstone. Um, that's probably 30% of it. Of like when I start to work on something new, there's always a measure of like toying with ideas, but those seasons of like working on things, they last a long time. Like it's a long time. We've been looking at this Thursday night thing that we did. That's been on the radar. Banks probably started harping about that in the spring, at least maybe summer.
Oh man, so we could have had this sooner.
Yeah, if you wanted all the mistakes that came with trying to figure out, because it, so for me, this, I think there's two categories for like what you're developing. For me, I think of trading as like a structure and the execution. And so, and then between the two, you birth like the setup. So that setup that Perdue's talking about is there's a certain structure that happens, and then there's a certain scenario that unfolds that creates the executable. And then that's the setup. It's both things together. But when you work on an idea that dramatically affects the structure or the way you're viewing the structure of the market, and that's going to bleed over to the setups that gives birth to and the execution. So for me, if I'm a lot more guarded, typically around the structure side of the deal.
Okay.
Setups, I mean, if I mean, executables, I am a little more like, hey, let's check this out. We'll play with this. And I'll be a little, a little more freewheeling typically with like entry conditions. And that may be an area because the structure side is I lean so heavily into that. I think there's actually some room for me now to kind of press into some of the execution in light of the structure, like sharpen some of that up a little bit. I think there's a little bit of I've just been working so hard on the other side for a while because I think by default, if your analysis of the structural components and where the market is in time and space is correct, you should be taking trades in the right direction, so the entry doesn't have to be as perfect. Now, during contract roll in NFP, they're a little harder on you, right? We saw that today. I was on the long side of every trade I got stopped out of or took a break even on. Yeah, so I guess that's the way I think about it. So I think about adding new stuff in like two categories. Is this going to be a structural change, and I'm going to be real slow to add something like that because I think that has really big implications. I mean, that's like, how do you view the market, the fabric of how you're interpreting this information, and if you tear that all to pieces on a whim, that would be tough, right?
That's the key though. It's there are different levels on fabricating or toying with your playbook, because that's what it
Right.
is. It really is your playbook.
Yeah.
And what Baba is talking about is a big thing for me. If you talked to me 2 years ago, I was a humongous Fibonacci trader into harmonics, and that's all I knew.
Yep.
You talk to a TPO trader, it's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, that's the world. That's like the thing that had originally, made the most sense to me years ago was like TPO. The way that organized the information and the ranges, just it was like, oh, this is how to understand everything. Like it just clicked. Well,
I
like
get
that's
that.
given, yeah, and then that gave birth to a lot of other stuff. And now it's years later, I still look at TPO first. Like I still look at it first. Now, then I take that information and thread it through the light of liquidity and the ranges and the time of when we would want to see certain things unfold.
But
And I'll say this, yeah, go ahead.
that's the idea though. Like to change your perspective, to change my perspective on market structural shifts right now would be very difficult for you and I to change how we perceive the market.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean,
how we enter the market or exit the market could be very easily adjusted.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
That's
Yeah, I don't
that's the
think
idea.
anything. Yeah, I don't think anything about. Yeah, I don't think anything about like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
let's,
that, but that's
oh,
that's the point. That's what I
yeah,
mean. That the level of structure between like a huge market shift for us would be changing how we perceive the market. Like for me, it was Fibonacci harmonics to then going to TPO, my own version of that, and volume balance areas and so forth. That's my structural picture now. And
yep,
then I have my own little entry system. But to change that bigger picture right now would be super hard for me to do right now. And to get to your point, it would be within over a year.
yeah. It was months and months of like not, and that came with like back testing, manually, a lot of it, to be honest,
Yep.
and doing it the right way. Like, let's be honest, you can go back and scroll through a chart and be like, oh, I would have done this here or that here. But roll the dice, pick a day, go back 2 months, start there, and see if you can make sense of what's happening with no real true frame of reference and apply that idea. If you're talking about structural stuff that needs to be able to make sense, and that's really what I did so much with all the current, I would say, like, well, it's just like two new additions: the perspective on where liquidity lies, and then the timing of how we're organizing the sessions. But it's even that adjustment was, was months in the making, partly because like there's some measure of responsibility too. I mean, we got a bunch of people in here hanging out, and I don't want to look
Yeah.
like a fool, and I don't want to lead them down like a dead end trail. So I was careful to talk about it for quite a while. I'll say this, that to change off of that side of back testing and strategy, usually when, even with an entry idea or with something more structural, like if I have an entry idea, or something, like I hear of something that piques my interest, or I see something that piques my interest, or I notice something in the chart and I'm like, a lot of times the first like stage of that is just like thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, not really looking at charts that much, but just, I mean, just like play it, like just trying to kind of wrap my mind around how and what ways I could utilize a certain thing. And a lot of times for me, that, like, I'll go do some yard work, or like this time of year, blow leaves, put on a headset, not listen, just a little bit of music, and just grind in my head just to try to imagine, why and how and what ways I would use something. So that work happens before I'm even like down to let's pull up a chart and play with it.
That's sleepless nights for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm serious. Like those things get stuck in my head when I try to go to sleep.
Yeah. And then a big part of it too is having some, like, if I were to say, hey, Banks, what do you think about this? And he's like, you're insane. Then I'd be like, oh, I probably should just leave that one alone. And credit to him, because like I'm sure he felt a little bit like, come on, man, like come on, because he was talking about some of this stuff, and I just wasn't
Wasn't as
I was like,
receptive as you.
yeah,
were
it's just like
guarded.
I'm in a good place
very
with what I'm
guarded.
doing. I was
Yeah.
very guarded. But then the more then it was like, and I'm sure he feels a little bit like then when I got over the hump, then I was like, 100,000 miles an hour. Yeah.
Send it.
Like I was, and he would be like, hey man, what have you been looking at? Like, tell me where you're at with all this. Cause I just, once I go, man, like, it's hyper fixation on, fleshing it out. And then, there's like that halfway into it where you're like, all right, I got everything. And then you try to blow it all up and like prove that you're wrong. And and all of that builds the confidence to actually be able to apply it and execute it. So, I mean, hanging on to the long idea today, when we had that deep sell, all the way back through that whole deal, and still looking at everything we were looking at and going, or for me, I was still like, there's just not a short to be had right now. There was a short to be had after we swept that liquidity in in the upper section, and I begged myself off of it like a loser. But Rich, I apologize for calling myself a loser, but
No negative self-talk here, boys.
yeah.
Yeah,
Banks?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I would say one big thing for like the new idea aspect of it is kind of having someone in trading that you can bounce something off of. To be honest with you, and I would say the largest part of our trading, like me and Baba together, is these late night sessions that we just, after the kids go to bed, we jump on and just try to iron down some stuff. I mean, the Thursday thing that we did with the town hall, I'm not sure how many replays we did while we were both on mic and he was screen sharing and we were just walking through every single candle. And it's just a matter of like going into the details of it.
Yeah, Kyle, you were peeked in on some of those, I think.
I wish I'd jumped in sooner, but I was like you. I was kind of guarded with what I was doing and didn't want to introduce a bunch of new variables.
And that's a good thing, right? Like, I think we should highlight or stress, like, you should be a skeptic of everything that somebody says that affects your pocketbook. Like, and especially your, the various levels of dependence of livelihood people have on this as their deal. If you're anywhere towards like you need this, like you need this, then you need to treat it as such. I mean, if somebody stepped into your business, Mike, and was like, the way you do everything is wrong, and just started telling you'd be like, dude, just scram, bro. Like,
you can say it.
You can buy it.
So, yeah, it's for sale. So that would be something I would just highlight is Banks is right. Like, and you're right, Kyle, in that perspective of like continuing the idea of being guarded. But
well, and it's tough to because you only have so much time in the day. You only have so much time available to explore these ideas. So you want to make sure that the time that you do have to dedicate is being put to the best use possible.
That's where I was going to go back into the backtesting part. Like that's where I find so much value in it because you can go through years in a weekend.
Yeah,
you can.
I'm
not gotten that
it,
fast yet.
But as you explore and get faster at backtesting and figure out your own way of backtesting and so forth, I can go through a whole entire year in a weekend very easily.
My problem is I want to click through the bars one at a time and try to look at it like it's happening in real time. Because for me, remember when new trader probably found RSI for the first time, and you looked at a chart and you're like, oh my God, this thing looks amazing. Look how it predicts all these movements. And then you watch it in real time and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't work like that.
This is doo-doo.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, you hit. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to get one thing, because this is like the biggest thing that I find every trader's problem is doing the work. You will never. It doesn't matter if it's myself, Kyle, Baba, Banks, any one of us can tell you specifically. If I told you specifically this strategy has a 50% win ratio, if you follow these specific 5 parameters every single time, it'll be 50% win ratio. Unless you go back and backtest it yourself and get those stats for yourself and go through the thousands or hundreds, let's just say hundreds of trades, those stats aren't yours until you earn them through backtesting and create them yourself. Because my backtesting results may say 50%. Your backtesting results may say 30%. So until you do that work, those numbers are yours once you do the work.
Yeah. The strategy becomes yours. You've shared a lot of stuff with me that's made its way into my trading, but the way I trade it is different than the way you trade it. The way I see it is different than the way you do. It's become mine after doing that work.
Yeah. And that's probably the biggest thing I could say. Like when you're introduced to something, is you're not the person that is presenting that. You're the person learning it. And it's very hard because you're not the person that's implementing those trades that's your first time seeing it. So when you're looking at something new, it's a matter of, I need to see it kind of like how he does, but how I'm going to implement it into what I look at. And I think that's where a lot of traders get stuck, because there's a lot of traders who look at stuff that they take it into the market one day and have a huge red day and never look at that again. And it's not saying that that's a bad strategy. It's just a matter of the way you're looking at it compared to the way that it was presented to you doesn't match your style or your understanding of it.
Yep. The understanding is the key part. You're not going to understand it until you do it yourself. Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
Any final thoughts on this before we move on to some good, bad, and ugly?
I would say, to Perdue's point, I would make this point when and both these guys mentioned it. Actually, everybody has that, like, making something your own is part of the reason. Like in Vanta, it's obvious what trades I'm in because my screen is being shared, and sometimes I'll say I'm going to be long here, or I'll say, hey, I'm long here, or sometimes I'll just take the trade, and then if you're watching, you'll see that I'm long there. Calling out what we anticipate to unfold for the educational value of saying, like, you have seen us talk about this method of structure. Now I'm taking a trade in accordance with that. So here's a live example of, because of these things, I'm doing this thing. That's helpful. But just sitting there all day long saying, okay, everybody get long at this price. Okay, everybody sell at this price. Like, you don't improve, like, you're handicapped. You're handicapping yourself if that's the kind of environment that you're in my opinion. And if that's the kind of environment you want, I'm not sure that, unless you find some magician that's willing to do that for you endlessly, just think of the lack of sustainability and independence. Like, you won't have either.
I was just going to mention that you become dependent on that person if you don't ever actually learn how to do what they're doing. Like, you model behavior.
Modeled the behavior, which is great. But, like, what I would love to, with Vanta and with what we're doing, and we're seeing that now, like, with incorporating just kind of everyone being pretty open-handed with what they do, what they're thinking, what they're working on. And then you begin to share that between people. And, like, Perdue starts to, I'm like, hey, can you look at session over session, the way we're organizing it with time through your volume profile lens, because I think you might like it, and you probably pick up on some stuff that I'm not picking up on, because that's his world, right? And so as we all continue to get more familiar with each other and grow, the opportunity to share, so it's not so much, well, it's me and Banks and we're going to tell everybody what to do, but it's like a fertile ground for new ideas and kind of everybody having this synergistic approach to continuing to develop. And that's a real different environment than, like, here comes the guy who's going to tell everybody where to buy and where to sell. Like, that's two way different things.
You will grow faster together than you will by yourself.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
One more shameless plug there. Monday, if anybody wants to jump in and share some of the processes or things that they're working on, we've got an event scheduled for 9 p.m. Central to do the second part of that.
Thanks to you too, Kyle, for organizing so many events. And I just think that's so cool to be able to look in the events thing and see, like, the 2 or 3 things that are coming up for the next week. Like,
I want to do more
level. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I appreciate it. I mean, it makes it's a whole vibe.
All right, let's now that I got my nice pat on the back, let's move in and talk about our goods and our craps for the week. Longtime fans of the show should be familiar with the lender formerly known as Sue Pullen, and I'm pleased to announce that she's back, fresh off a rebrand and ready to help as Sue Mackey. Sue is a certified mortgage advisor at Fairway Independent Mortgage, an equal housing lender who focuses on finding the right product for you and your needs. She has over 20 years of experience helping thousands of homeowners. Whether it's purchasing, refinancing, or even a reverse mortgage, Sue will help. Sue's licensed in 36 states now, so reach out and let Sue Mackey it happen for you. The best way to reach her is to just give her a call at 520-977-7904 or in an email, spullen@fairwaymc.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage has an MLS number of 2289. Sue Mackey has an MLS number of 206048. That email again, spullen@fairwaymc.com, and that phone number is 520-977-7904. Shoot Sue an email and let her know she needs to update that address. So this is the segment where we talk about what we did, the lessons we learned from it. As we like to say, trading is a constant process of improving, and there's always some great lessons to learn from the mistakes that we made. So I'll open up the floor here to whoever wants to lead us off. goods, bads, uglies, whatever you guys want to discuss.
I'll go into my good of the week.
Do it.
Let's go.
I only took one single trade today, and I had a stop of 1.25 handles, and it went to 8R.
One trade on your...
One trade, and that was my only trade for the day on a Friday, and frankly, I was flat on the week, and that pushed me over to the other side.
Look at you go.
That's freaking awesome, dude. And I want to point out, too, because people probably don't realize this, but Friday is your day to trade at home. So that's typically the day you get to lean in and really, uncork it. So to only take one trade on that and to hit a banger like that, that's freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's air quotes. I get to work from home and
Right.
not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, work.
You guys all know I still had to go on a teleconference. So
Oh, yeah.
distracted me, but yeah, I only had the one good trade for the Friday, but that's like the point that I've actually been reverberating in my journals is it really, and we were talking about it earlier, I think in pre-market, me and White Boy Rick, and but that's the point. Like you really need to wait for the market structure, wait for the market conditions to come to your specific criteria to where you want to take a trade.
Mm-hmm.
It's waiting for the market to come to you. That's the whole phrase. Like it's, and it's something you hear as a rookie or as a newbie, but it really doesn't resonate until you actually start seeing it in your P&L, seeing it in your journal, and waiting for those setups where you can't help but like I'm jumping at the mouse to click the button to get in those trades.
It's another excellent point,
Yep.
especially about the people telling you. Like I've said this many times, like when we first started this podcast, everybody came on and told us exactly what we needed to do to be successful. And I thought I understood it, but 3 years later, and now finally those lessons are starting to click into place.
Takes a while for it to resonate.
Yeah, you need that screen time still.
Yep.
All right, who else has got something they want to share?
Yeah, I'll go. The good of the week is we finally got to paint the picture on Thursday with the town hall of what we've been kind of working on. So
I was hoping that'd be somebody's good.
Yeah, so finally putting it out there, and then kind of the next steps of getting into more of the content piece of it. The bad of the week was nothing to do with trading. My whole family's been sick all week. It's been an absolute nightmare.
Oh, sorry, man.
No, you're good. On Monday, I took a projectile vomit right to the chest.
Oh my god.
That was So got that going for me this week.
It's all uphill.
Basically anything's better than that. So,
any more goods or bads there, Banks?
No, not on my standpoint.
All right, sorry about the projectile vomiting, but it could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse. So that's
at least it was the chest.
Yes, that's true.
What about you, Baba? I think we know what your bad is.
I feel like every week we've came in here and I've had a trading bad, dude. It's annoying, and they're not terrible, but they're just they're just a little leaky. But I think the good of the week it's not really trading related. I mean, just getting away for a few days with my wife with no kids, even though it was cut short, which is sort of bad. It's just a lot of fun. The lack of responsibility when you're on a trip like that, when you have 5 kids, young kids, we have 5 kids, 4 under 10. It's busy around here. So to leave them all at home and go away for almost a week, we didn't quite make it a week. And just do stuff is fun.
You've been in my mind a lot this whole entire week because I have 3 kids. And your exact vacation trip is a conversation between my wife this whole entire week because I have 3 girls. The oldest one is 11, and I cannot remember the last time. Actually, no, take that back. We did have a trip to Vegas. So, but we don't have those trips, and you have an annual. It sounds like an annual trip?
Yeah, it is. It's every year. Well, yeah, at least we do. We try to do 2 trips a year where we leave the kids and go away, and one sometime around our anniversary, the springtime, and one in December. That's like for sure we're doing that one every year. We book it.
I need to work on that. The trip I'm thinking about was we went to Vegas. Actually, it was 2 years ago, before a buddy's 40th birthday. But that was the first trip that we could recall that we had actually gone with each other, with no kids.
Yeah.
And so you've been on my mind about that.
Yeah. I'm glad you've been thinking about me.
Yeah.
So that was the good. The bad was
that is a good,
the
man.
That is, yeah.
That was the good, yeah. And my wife, she listens to these a little bit, but she's a rock star, and I'll get her to listen to them here and there. But yeah, it's just fun, man. Like the pace of life can be difficult. Just you have to make so many decisions every day. There's always something going on. Somebody always has a problem. And you're trying to parent these kids, and help raise them and
make it up as you
do
go.
it as a team and all that stuff. Yeah, and you're making it up as you go, and the littlest things can become really difficult. Like, hey, let's run out and grab dinner. Well, it's a nightmare to get this many people out of the house or anything. So for us to have a few days where we just, hey, you want to go grab some coffee? Yeah, let's go. We have to put our own clothes on. That's it. Just my clothes, which is easy because I'm already wearing them. So I just walk out the door.
I like the day dates like that.
Yes.
Go do something fun for an afternoon, or even if it's just going to the store together. I enjoy doing that too.
Yeah, for sure.
The one piece of advice I want to give is never stop dating your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Never stop trying.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like I know that various people. This isn't a marriage podcast, but like, the woman, your woman in your life, your lady, like she's your ride or die, bro. Like that's your lifeline to sanity.
Yep. I mean, trading is all mental. I mean,
she's the one who keeps me in line. Tell her what I do every day.
Yeah. That's always fun when it's a bad day, though.
I still do it, though.
The bad. Speaking of the bad was today we had the right idea, and I struggled to wait for the market to come to me, as Perdue mentioned. So, like, I had one trade that was okay. I'm fine, and then the other trades were just not great. So and it was a Friday, and I usually I'm like real cognizant of the day of the week, but I think being gone for a few days and not trading, and then trading on coming back and trading, like I was like surprised it was Friday when we were like doing prep, and it didn't really fully register. And then I talked about check your brackets, check your products. Most of the time on Fridays, I trade light size or micros. Like I'll trade micros instead of minis. And if you catch the right, kind of Friday, like the ones Perdue like so much, we get these big ranges. You can still have a really good finish to a week with micros. It's not, it's not going to be like a life changer, but it'd be, fine. And I just took today as another regular day, which was the first mistake as I thought back through the day. Like I was trading, a couple contracts, got into 4 at one point, and I'm like, this is a Friday. What the freak am I doing in 4 contracts on a Friday? And that's not like huge size, but it's Friday. Like I just typically don't trade Fridays like that. I typically take 2 or 3 trades on a Friday. I took 6 today. I mean, that's a lot of trades for any day. So there were just a handful of things that it was like mentally a little bit off. I didn't feel the best. I almost got sick last night doing the live stream thing, actually, I think it was whatever my daughter had. I had the adult version of it. So there were just a few things that like were all stacked against me. And so I just like, gave back profits from yesterday and a little bit from the day before. And it's like, it wasn't like now I want to go, sulk or be sad, but it's like
it didn't have to happen.
Darn, that was a real oversight in like 5 different categories. What was I doing? Like coming off of vacation, rolling in on a Friday, like it's just not, it was silly. So
trying to make up for the week,
right?
Probably somewhere down in there thinking like, well, finish off really strong, but I did have a cool trade on Wednesday while on vacation. So that was cool. But yeah, all in all, that was the bad for the week. It was just, annoying. I started a combine account for this, this liquidity cycles, like really trying to kind of copy a little bit of Perdue, a little bit with that. Just thinking like this will be like a live forward test or whatever. And then, so that was a little bit silly to do that in that account after having it up.
That's a perfect example of why we're doing this show right there.
So,
learning from each other.
Yep. So it wasn't a herd of the real pocketbook, but the new shiny 150K combine from 2 days ago or 3 days ago got ticked up pretty nicely and then smacked back down. So
yeah, could have been worse. Sounds like
could have been much worse.
Yeah. Speaking of much worse, I think that's my ugly. I let impatience get the better of me this past week, Monday, Tuesday especially. But I think I did a pretty good job of recognizing what was happening. Remember when we had that conversation about the tweet that Crudelli had about how most traders fail because they can't make as much money as they want to, not because they can't make money?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that was like directly applicable this week. I recognized that eventually. I shut everything down on Wednesday as far as live trading went. I spent the rest of the week just observing kind of some of the new ideas and stuff. I had a really great conversation with Banks, kind of chatting about some of the stuff that I was looking at and like how to incorporate some of these new ideas. And it was extremely helpful, helping solidify some of the new ways to start seeing the markets. And now I've got a whole bunch of backtesting homework to do this weekend to try to get back on the right track. But I'm every one of these setbacks has always led to a new and improved version. So as long as that continues to happen, I know I'm still making progress and I'm still happy with how things are going.
Yeah. Impatience, just trying to force it to make more than to make a certain amount, like just driving that like P&L.
It's I'm going to take every single one of these trades because that's the way I've been back testing it and that's the way I need to do it. And that's not the way I need to do it. I need to recognize what the markets is trying to do and then try to catch a ride. And having the framework of the quarterly session stuff to throw behind that has just given me a lot more confidence in being able to have a read of what is likely to happen and where people are likely to step in to support the markets or reject the bullish pushes.
So, yeah, but the to me the forward testing part though is you're taking the specific parameters, like you're frankly a robot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sit through the pain of taking those losses?
No, it wasn't the. Yes, it was.
That's the point.
Yes, but it was because I hadn't fully fleshed out the concept that I think I was working on, which hence the reason for the second topic. Some of those things were starting to already creep in, so
yeah,
that also led to some of that decision to shut things down. It's like this is an exciting idea that I'm really excited to incorporate and try to take the pieces that I want and put it into my process. But I need to actually do the work, like Perdue's mentioned, to quantify that and say that, hey, look, there is edge here. Now let's go live and let's see if we can recreate those same results, trading it forward as we did trading it backwards.
Yeah, and the edge that there's multiple facets of edge present in something. So what parts of the edge resonate with you is where it's like really where obviously where you're trying to focus up and like and systematize that,
Yep.
And I think that's another piece. Like I might use it in one way, Perdue uses something another way, and you use the same thing a different way because the part that makes the most sense to you. And that's where those are conversations that are great to have and perspectives that are like need to be at the forefront.
It's another reason why a community is so important to have those people that you can bounce those ideas on and that can help you solidify some understandings.
Yep.
Because without Banks' help this weekend, I'd probably still be floundering, trying to figure out what I want to make of this. And just having a chance to bounce some ideas off of somebody and share what I've been working on, him take a look at it and pick it apart a little bit, really helped narrow that stuff down. Yeah.
I'll second that because Banks was helping with a different perspective on another idea.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Look at Banks over here. He's the shadow banker.
Yeah, the shadow banker.
Just helping.
Well, he's the one that can, like, if you have like an idea that's like okay or like has something, some little nugget in there, He's like really good at taking something and getting the most out of it.
Yep.
I feel like.
Yep.
Sounds like he's good at polishing turds.
Hey.
I'm not sure who should be offended by that.
I think me. Let's move on to some bold predictions then before we insult everybody here. All right. Where do we want to start here? Perdue, we've got our predictions kind of outstanding. I was thinking about maybe modifying mine, but I want to let Baba or Banks jump in with a new one. I think we could start there.
Go ahead, Banks.
I'll kind of chime in with my bad from last week. My bold prediction this week is my daughter's going to go to 5 days of school this week.
No matter what.
Wait, just the one or all of them?
Just the one is in school. So,
okay. All right.
Gosh, she's missed at least one day. I mean, because with Thanksgiving and everything, I'd say it's probably the week before Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
All right, that sounds pretty bold. Is she still sick right now, or is she on the mend at least?
She's on the up and up. It just seems like me and my wife are, well, at least me, I'm on the down.
Right. You're the one dragging everyone down.
But yeah, I'm sure now it'll turn. I'll get them sick, and then I'll be the one in trouble.
I hate it when a cold gets recycled between family members.
Yeah.
Like,
or a stomach bug.
Yeah. I haven't had to deal with one of those in a long time. All right, Baba. We've heard Banks's bold prediction. What's yours?
Okay, well, my bold prediction is that, and this is going to be nuanced, right? So track with me. It is stock market related. Sorry, I know they don't have to be, but I think that it's a bold prediction. Whatever next week's low is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever next week's low is, the following week we'll trade below that low before then the exuberance into the end of the year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a bold prediction, but I also kind of want it to come true just because of nothing I've boldly predicted has come true. And I think it would be fun. I think I don't know how likely that is, but I think that's a pretty bold prediction.
I feel like I need to start going first. So I feel like you guys are all taking mine every time. I was going to modify my old prediction of new all-time highs on NQ to say that week 3 we finally get that break. It's going to come early, not by the end of the year. I was going to say by the end of week 3. But since you kind of stole a little bit of that thunder, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go on the opposite side of you. I'm going to say it's going to happen next week. What do you think of that?
That's fine. Well, we can make a new high next week. I just think whatever next week's low is, the following week we make a run for it.
Sweep it and then shoot up.
Yeah. Well, that would be cool. I haven't looked at news or anything like that. I just think that would be, if I were in charge, if I were the puppet master,
right?
I would let it keep on going one more week, and everyone that wants to short it would just be like, it only ever goes up. And then
who's buying this?
Well, I mean, when you look at Apple's chart and it's less than 2% from its all-time highs right now.
I know. And then we got the boost of the contract roll helping out a little bit there too.
This is true.
Yep. Mike, you got anything you want to add to what you got going on?
I'm just gonna double down on last week, and I think the FOMC this week is gonna be showing signs of being dovish.
Wow, that's been a long time.
Straight into the Santa Claus rally, so I'm just doubling down on my original idea.
I heard the counter argument to that, thinking that it might happen sooner to the elections, but.
And a bull market will just climb a wall of worries. So,
well said.
I was looking at a bigger time frame chart. It's kind of great. Like if you just look at it, it's like,
look at it weekly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just simply look at it weekly or monthly. Like it's like posed to get out of consolidation.
This whole year, everybody's been crying that we're going to the lows. We're gonna crash.
Going to zero. Right. It's all coming down.
Right. All right. Anybody else have anything else before we wrap this up then?
Nope. God, look at Apple on a monthly. Man.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for today's episode. Big thank you to Baba Yaga, Mr. Banks, and Perdue here for joining me on this wonderful Friday evening. Thanks to everybody for sticking around. Thanks to the guys in the live audience. Remember to check out that new combined Discord where you can join a supportive community. Focuses on lifting each other up or can even tune into these live recordings. As a reminder, please show these panelists some love by checking out their links in the show notes. We will be back soon with another exciting episode full of bold calls, but till then, share this episode with your friends like a black bear photo taken on vacation, and take care.
Let's go, Kyle. Let's go.
This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial or investment advice and should not be construed as such. The hosts, guests, and contributors of this podcast are not licensed financial advisors, brokers, or professionals. Any trading or investment decisions made based on the content of this podcast are solely at the listener's discretion and risk. Trading and investing in financial markets carry inherent risks, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Listeners should conduct their own research and seek advice from qualified financial professionals before making any financial decisions. The views, opinions, and information shared in this podcast are those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the podcast creators or associated organizations. Produced by China Shop Productions.